and welcome to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 6th, and it's 1:30, and we will call the meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Peters,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Attorney Tercivia, and Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
We could all rise for the pledge.
One nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
I have a request that we postpone voting on resolution 2024-003 until we all have an opportunity to digest the information that was presented at last Thursday's meeting, because in light of the fact that people's opinions leaving the meeting were different than when they came in, I'm not prepared to vote on that now.
I was looking forward to that item personally. Maybe could we have some discussion on that? Anyone have anything to say about that?
Is there, Glenn, is there any negatives on voting for it?
There,
Why we shouldn't?
part of our strategy, this was part of it, and I know I had an opportunity to discuss this with the Milani family, so they're waiting anxiously for this piece. Somewhat critical to our timeline.
All right.
Yeah.
Did we get anything back from them yet?
I've gotten confirmation that we're all on the same page.
Does it say exactly the same thing, or have they made changes to it?
We haven't presented them anything. I have not received anything from legal yet. We're supposed to get that in the next couple of days, for which we would share
Well,
with them.
Then I don't know what they are going to say, so I don't want to vote on this until I know what their perspective is. Not that they're saying we're on the same page, but that the agreement says the same thing.
Well, we're not voting on the agreement. We still have a
I know
chance.
that,
Okay.
But my vote on this depends on whether that agreement lines up exactly with what we want it to say, because otherwise I'm not going to vote yes.
So we'll discuss that item at the time. So I mean, I guess that what's on the request is whether or not we need to amend the agenda. So I'm not in favor of amending the agenda. I don't know if there's anyone else wants to, so, I mean, you can make a motion and we can go through the process and
All right, well, I move that we postpone resolution 2024-003 until our next scheduled meeting.
so there's a motion to amend the agenda. So, right. So she's making a motion to remove it from the agenda. So we're waiting to see if there's a second on that motion.
Well, I'd like to, can we discuss this for a moment, please, first? Well, I would
Okay, go ahead.
imagine the motion is to adjust the agenda.
It's just for the agenda at this point in
Just the
time, just to
agenda.
even discuss it today. That's what the motion is about. And there's a motion on the table and we're waiting to see if there is a second or not.
I would like to, I will second that. I
Okay,
think
so
there's
now we
other
can,
issues to take up, including the town's purchase, which this does not contemplate. So I'd like to adjourn it to the next session.
okay, so now we can discuss it, correct? We can discuss whether or not. So I would be in favor of discussing this today. I don't see why we have to take it off the agenda. We can still discuss it at the time. So I personally am in favor of leaving it on the agenda. So I guess I'd like to hear, everyone else chime in as well.
I agree, we should leave it on for discussion.
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay, So I guess we can take a vote now that we have a motion and a second. Am I doing it procedurally? Am I doing this correct?
You can make a motion on Commissioner David's motion to take it up this agenda, or based on the comments she's heard, she could withdraw that motion.
Or we could
Or
vote,
you could
right?
vote on
And
it.
it would
Or
be,
you could vote
I
on
mean,
it.
based on, yeah,
We then keep it on the agenda.
right, which would keep it on the agenda,
So you need to withdraw the motion or we can.
or we could vote, right?
Let's vote.
Okay, so if we could have a vote of each of the commissioners as on the motion that's on the table. Roll call, please.
Commissioner David,
Yes, to remove it.
so yes to remove. Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Peters,
No.
Vice Mayor Stern,
No.
Mayor Moore.
No,
It's a 3-2 vote, so it's gonna remain on the agenda.
so
Can I-
did we actually approve the agenda? Do we move on to the next item, or do we need a motion to
No,
approve?
now it stays on the agenda.
And the agenda is approved as presented.
Their next motion would be a motion to approve the agenda. 'Cause
Okay.
You didn't vote
Okay,
on
gotcha.
approval of the agenda.
Okay, so I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Peters
Yes.
and Commissioner David.
Yes,
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on, presentations and proclamations, resolution number 2024-003. A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, supporting the sale of Milani Park and providing for an effective date. Town Manager, will you be presenting?
Yeah,
that?
so this, we discussed at the last meeting to have a resolution, supporting this, and this is the focus of our strategy in petitioning the other commissioners is to sell the property, so we don't get park. If we move off of this, we have the potential to jeopardize the relationship with the Milani family that are waiting on the outcome of this resolution to see if we are really moving forward as we've indicated. If not, we'll just have to pivot, but it could put us behind a little bit on schedules and initiatives. I generally didn't want to speak a lot to what our strategy is, but the crust of it is, why are they holding on to this property? They should sell it, take that money, repurpose it, goes back in, goes into the market, rezoned, and it stays a private beach, and we don't get a beach park in any fashion. So this is a resolution that we would send to the county commission saying, we don't want the park, sell it, repurpose those dollars. I know statements have been made that they can't do that. I don't think that's true. And nor have they proven to the contrary. So, that's what this resolution is what we discussed at our last meeting, and what we've been advocating.
And just one more question. And this was also recommended by the advocates that we've hired, correct?
Yes, the consultants have recommended this highly as a means to communicate our purpose and mission on this, park.
Glenn, I have a legal question for you. If the county decides to, in essence, donate this property to a developer to develop workforce housing on that property, would that constitute a sale?
They're saying if the county decides that rather than building a park, they're going to what's commonly referred to as surplus to property, consider the property surplus property. Generally, when a government does that, they will still put it up for sale. Very rarely will they just donate it. They could, I've seen that happen, but oftentimes they'll still sell it probably at a reduced price if the concept is workforce housing and one of the drivers on the price of the housing is the cost of the land. So I would think that the county would probably sell it, but probably at a reduced price. But we're projecting in the future what the county might or might not.
Right, but if they do that, then do the Milanis still have their right of first refusal?
Well, again, I don't want to get into a discussion as to
I
what the
mean, will the
Milani's
county
rights.
just ignore They have a
Right.
contractual obligation from roughly 30 years ago. And I don't know if they get to ignore that or not.
Right, exactly. I mean, the Milanis have an agreement with the county. I think they sold it to the county for 3.9 million or so dollars 30 years ago. And that agreement has different obligations, and the Highland Beach is not a party to that
Right,
contract.
no,
So
that's,
we've never rendered any opinion on the ins and outs and validity of that contract. What the county decides to do, if they decide not to move forward with the park and put the property up for sale, that will be a discussion between the Milani family and the county, I'm sure.
thank you.
Just to piggyback on that line of discussion, but I thought that settlement agreement between the Milani family and you know, selling that park, that the only use for the county is to make a park. Like how, right? Am I understanding that correctly? I thought that
Yeah,
there,
it'd be tough. It depends on whoever the attorneys are, but I could sense that if the purchase agreement contemplates a park, not workforce housing, so that'd be, I would think, some level of breach of contract on that sale if all of a sudden the county says, we're not building the park, we're gonna put in workforce housing. Well, the Milanis didn't sell it for the namesake to be a workforce housing, so I think it clouds the issue. It's not as clean. And I would think that depends on the attorney, any litigator can pick a side, but it's pretty clear that it was sold for this with the right of first refusal if that is not built, so.
I mean,
To say that they could convert it, donate it, and then convert it into some other use when the Milanis sold it at whatever discount, no discount, whatever you want to say on the price, with it, that they're building a park to be named after Cam Milani. I think it'd be a difficult issue. And knowing the Milanis, I don't know that they would just stand by the side as it becomes workforce housing.
I have a question. Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you finish?
No, I said, just was gonna say that as I read that contract in the past, the county has a deadline as to when that park has to be built, or then they have to sell.
Yeah, basically, you're right. There's an agreement. Remember, there's a couple of agreements. There's an agreement between the town and the county, and then there's an agreement between the Milani family and the county. How those two interact, generally, the safest course for the county is to build a park in accordance with the agreement with the town, which is the 100+ parking spaces with the bathroom and the security guard and all of that. I think everybody realizes that if they build a smaller park that we discussed, 40 parking spaces or so, a more passive park, that will require a renegotiation of that agreement. Similarly, if the county decides not to build a park, but to repurpose it for something else, and I haven't gotten the bond documents from the county yet, but what's been represented is the bond documents have some restrictions that it must be used for, whether it's a park purpose or a public purpose of some type. So the county may be restricted themselves on what they can do with that property. Getting into a whole lot of potential issues the minute you stray from the agreements that were reached 20 and 30 years ago. And obviously we're straying, everybody's straying from those agreements. Even the conversations about making it a more passive park is going to require some negotiations.
Just seems to me that right now, this issue is really cloudy. There are an awful lot of ifs and unknowns. And I guess I don't know where I want to fall out on this at this moment.
Again, this is, I understand, trust me, all day, every day, this is all I think about. So I would tell you to stay the course. Don't deviate at this point, because there's nothing that's lending you to deviate from it. They have not produced something to render you have a different opinion at this point. They have not produced anything. I would stay the course. We were comfortable a couple weeks ago to, pass this resolution. Pass the resolution, we move forward with the Milanis. You have an opportunity to review that agreement to make sure we're all on the same page. There's more steps coming. I know we had a great turnout. A lot of community support came last Thursday. No, I didn't hear but one person want a park. They might want different versions of don't park it. I think that's a stretch. I think they're not going to put parking spaces on a countywide park. But nobody wanted the park, even at the version that the county commissioner presented, or the one that's in the settlement agreement. So this is one course to say, you know what, sell the property. They're short money for capital, not only in their overall capital of $700 million short, they're 139 million short in parks over the next 5. To think that they're going to have adequate funds, or they could get funds here, not only from the sale of the property, but also the opportunity costs savings where they're not building the park out. They put those two together. They got a big chunk of money to put at another park to serve a greater number of individuals or residents, maybe that has a higher rank or value within the park system even, which would meet what Glenn was saying on a bond sale. Generally, you have a public purpose or a defined use of dollar. You can't generally, you can't take the money from a park sale and put it into mental health services or put it over into the sheriff's department. You would have to keep it in the park system, which is a limitation, but it doesn't limit the ability to sell the property. So, I mean, if they produce that, I would honestly be surprised. You could bound it by the public purpose, but to say you could never sell something without it being directly federal dollars that has this special purpose, say like for a nature preserve or something like that, that's purchased under a federal auspice, where you're basically saying it can never, ever in a day be built. But these were our dollars, local dollars from the county. So I don't think you can restrict future commissioners down the road beyond even the closure of the bond repayment period. You could say it has to stay in the parks, which makes sense, but to say you can never sell it, it's a little bit unusual to see an instrument like that.
My concern was my takeaway was, while Commissioner Woodward will consider what the comments and take it back to the commission. My takeaway was, they're doing the park. They will move slightly over to a smaller park, non-intrusive, with all the other restrictions limited from the original. And with, and the assertion, however, that was very concerning to me was they can exercise through statutory codes, which we don't have clarification on, to supersede the agreement and court order with workforce housing as a threat. So I think the validity of that is crucial in us determining whether or not they can do that. But I was very offended by that position that was taken. So I think we should move forward. There is verbiage in the resolution that actually refers to workforce housing that I would request be removed. And I think we have to revise a lot of this verbiage. But I felt that they really she ignored the reality, and her team ignored the reality of very significant adverse impact that the park would have. And I think perhaps we should stop referring to it as a park. It's a parking lot and access to a non-viable beach property. So I would advocate going forward with this and increasing our voice, not only in our immediate community, but we should go out with a very wide berth, perhaps nationwide, certainly statewide and beyond, of what is happening here. Under a facade of wanting more beachfront property, taking, 5.6 acres and turning it substantially into a parking lot. So I think the clarification about this workforce housing is crucial. And if it's important to the Milanis to know that we are aligned and want her alignment with us, contrary to the county's mandate under the agreement and court order, then if that's what's needed, then we should go forward with a resolution, subject to change and just cleaning it up a bit. I'm finished.
Yeah, I don't know, I was a little bit, I mean, I loved that everybody came out the other night and I was proud of all the residents. I bet you, she said, I guess at one of the meetings, Marshall listened, there was like 150 people. There had to be over 300 people there. I mean, this room was full. the side standing, the library, every little screen computer was watching. We even had some Boca people there from Ambrose Walk and Sea Ranches and the lobby because it's going to bother them too. I was a little disturbed that she is forcing this on her and she should be listening to us. We're the 2% that she won the election with. And I tell you right now, I will not vote for her in 2026 when if she decides to run again. She's not listening to us. And I thought it was very distasteful that she threatened us with workforce or affordable housing, whatever. And for me, I don't think it's possible because if it's going to cost, only somebody with some money is going to build there that's not accessible. To build workforce, have to go inland where they can build more and get more for your buck. I think that was just a threat and I didn't like that she did that. And she's saying the other, and I think, we just have to work on the county legislators. And I think this resolution is important that we align and we approve a sale of it. And that's how I see it.
Vice Mayor?
I think the resolution makes it very clear that we don't want it and we want the property sold as it reads. And I think that's an excellent position to take. So I would support the resolution.
I'm also very much in support of the resolution. Just like Marshall said, there has been no concrete support that they can't sell the property. All the Commissioner Woodward said is we will have a park. And I don't think we should back down from the option of the county being able to sell the park. If it was that clear cut, documentation would have been provided to us. An opinion letter from the attorney, something about, the bond money that was raised that says, there's no other, none of that has been presented to us. And it has been requested of her for several weeks now. So the fact that she just keeps saying there is no other option other than the park, we cannot back down from our position. Yes, there is. Let's find a way. This is what she's in that position for, is to listen to the residents and see if there is a way instead of just saying no. And I also am, offended, as Commissioner Goldberg said, and commissioners before me, that we are not being heard. We are asking our elected official to listen to what, we want, and we are not being heard. And I also think that this affordable housing is a absolutely empty threat. It is a threat to, make us back down. Just me personally, the way I think this whole thing works is you get to do the maximum density zoning in that district. Well, the maximum density zoning, when you put it through the details, it's like 43 units, a maximum of 43 units. That is not affordable. 43 units, the cost to me, even if they donated the land, it would be too costly to maintain the building, for the insurance. It would be so irresponsible to expect the people who would need affordable housing to be able to afford just the costs that 43 units would have to spend on that type of property. That, in my opinion, is just so irresponsible, and which is why I truly believe it is an empty threat to just try to persuade us to back down on this property. I'm as a constituent of Commissioner Woodward, it's very upsetting. So I don't think we should back down. This was part of a larger strategy, this resolution that was developed. And I think we should march along the way we had originally began with. That meeting achieved the objective of the residents, let the county know how they feel about the park. And that objective was successful. When Marshall and I met with the county officials, they did not believe us when we said there is no local stakeholder support. And now we have video proof that there is no support for this park. And I think we keep marching along with the path that we have established, that the professionals that we've hired, the consultants that we've hired to move along with this. I also had the benefit of meeting with Marshall one-on-one. So I did hear, all, a little bit more information that my colleagues have had. And I am fully in favor of this resolution and moving forward. And I think this is another positive step towards this goal of what we have established for this property. So I guess I should open it for public comments. Yes, sir.
Jack Halpern, 4511 South Ocean Boulevard. I was not coming here to discuss the resolution this afternoon because I thought that was going to be done. And thank you, Manager Labate, for producing that. We here in the audience and the hundreds of people that showed up need this resolution passed. This resolution passed shows that you're supporting us and we're going to support you. We have things planned that we will be executing shortly, which are going to involve the other commissioners in Palm Beach County. But all I can hear Woodward saying, well, the town didn't support him because the town wants it. If that resolution doesn't pass today, that's what's going to happen to us. And it's a waste of our time to go to the commissioners if you're not passing that resolution. The first week of March, when they're meeting, if you don't have the resolution passed like today, we're done for. Okay. And Commissioner Goldberg, Commissioner David, I ask that you please reconsider your positions. So what I was going to talk about, I'm going to try and do a short version of it, and I'll give you a handout as well. First of all, I want to point out something to you that keeps getting lost. This is Milani Beach Park. The reason why this park was going forward is because the county has a plan and they need more beaches. We cannot drop that because there is no beach. Commissioner Woodward says our property is unique for a public beach park, her words. And she compares it to Hammond Park and Ocean Ridge. Okay, let's take a look at Milani Park Beach versus Hammond Beach. Your Model Rock occupies 58 meters in length of 123 meters of total beach length. So about half of the proposed beach is your Model Rock. Now let's compare this 50 balance of about 50 or 60 meters of beach to Hammond Beach Park. Hammond Beach Park is 330 meters long with no obstructions and no swimming signs, which they'll be putting on your Model Rock. So we're talking about Milani Park Beach being 20% of the size of Hammond Beach. Let's get that point across. This is not a beach park. It's a park. The county doesn't need another park. It needs a beach park, and this is not it. In addition, at high tide, we have all the pictures to show there's no beach left, virtually no beach left. And actually, if you go south, you find out there's not a lot of beach till you get down to where Ocean 45 is, where you start to get a wider beach. So people there at high tide, they're going north or they're going south towards 45 Ocean, so they have a place to swim. This was not addressed. Everybody brought up that there is no beach and that the beach that was there because of the rocks, and I'll pass along some photographs when I'm done, that it was a dangerous situation. People brought it up. People brought up turtles. It was never really addressed in terms of the size of the beach. Did you hear any numbers about it? They showed up pictures that were doctored, by the way. Let's talk demographics. I'm going to show you pictures of not only Hammond Park, Beach Park, but also Gulfstream Park. I want to pass them along to you. And I'm also going to show you an air photo of this Milani property. We have, what is it? Excuse me, let me make sure I got my numbers right. 13 condo towers within 1,500 feet of Milani Park. 11 are within 1,000 feet. These 13 towers comprise 1,407 apartment units, hence thousands of people adjacent to the proposed parking lot. Yes, parking lot, because it's not a beach. I'll be very quick if you'll give me another moment to finish up. The other ones bear not that kind of a density. Stormwater. If you go back to the county historic project history to the year 2000, you will see that they say it in there before the Board of Appeals when they're going through the lawsuit, fighting against Mrs. Milani in terms of the easement of property for a pipeline to the intercoastal. The pipeline needs to have gravity flow. 5 years ago, we went across this when we were doing the bond issue. We don't have the right elevations for gravity flow at high tide within the intercoastal. So they cannot use gravity flow. There's not enough room on that site based on the plan. We finally got the plan that was proposed back in 2005. We were able to get a copy of it. There's not enough room on there to do much else in terms of retaining all the stormwater on site. And by the way, this is the same problem whether you're building a property or if you're building like workforce housing. They still got to handle the same stormwater, and actually it'll make it more prohibitive cost-wise. So I bring those points to your attention, and thanks for giving me the extra time.
Thank you. Any other, thank you very much, Ron.
Ron Riami, Dalton Place. I support the resolution. I've always been against the park, and however, when Commissioner Woodward and I met a few times, she convinced me that, and I became wishy-washy about this whole thing because of what she said, that we couldn't, sell, or, that they couldn't sell the property for a profit and so forth, and that we potentially have workforce housing and so forth, and things like that, and as Commissioner Goldberg said, obviously she's very convincing that she wants a park and that this is a unique property, et cetera, et cetera. And, but unfortunately, she hasn't come through with the documentation that show these things. And, she assured me that we would have that information, and it hasn't been forthcoming. So, I mean, based on that, if she doesn't have the aces in the hole, then I really think you should pass the resolution. I mean, all you're doing is, moving this forward with the family, and nothing actually ever has to necessarily come out of it if you all don't want to, the family, or you can't agree with the county. But I mean, this is just, to me, this is just a logical step now, given what has taken place, and obviously the outpouring of our community saying nobody wants a park, a parking lot, whatever. So this gives you the ability to at least throw that element in the ring of being able to, if it ever happens that the county sells the land back to the family. So I think you should pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would pass this then without the term including affordable and workforce housing, because I don't want it to appear that we are in favor of that, or of this selling it and using the money for that. Because I think that sends a wrong impression.
Unless, I mean, I think the rationale for including affordable and workforce housing is, at a different location.
But that's not what it
Say
says.
so.
Well, it says utilize the funds from the sale coupled with the funds not used to develop the park to address crucial community needs, including affordable work. And I mean, I don't know if we want to say at another location, at a more cost-effective location. Does that, because that is part of the strategy, right? It's that, use the funds towards something that would impact many more families in a positive
No,
way.
that I understand, but if what Glenn said is accurate, they couldn't do that. They would have to use it towards a park of some sort.
If their bond issue says what they're
If-
saying,
right.
says, which we haven't seen
But
yet.
we don't know, but
Right.
I mean, the last sentence does say throughout Palm Beach County, but you could say excluding Highland Beach.
We're at a
No.
different location.
I don't know that you want to go that far.
I mean, I think that, so if we could vet this a little bit,
another question. If we pass this, how does that affect the county at all? Does that limit them? Does it give them permission to do something they might not be able to do?
No, but it shows the commission's position that the residents have spoken, don't want to park, sell it. It's an opportune time to, you're short of money elsewhere in your budget for even parks, even if you say it's specific to parks. Sell the property, use those funds in a more apt location that currently they don't have monies to finish projects. Here you go. There's the money to finish those other projects, which have been waiting longer or as long as Milani Park, that have served more people, have more access. It's up to you, county, but there's a chance to, take these dollars, go somewhere else. We don't want the park, never have. We'll talk about that later when I give an update with some of the misstatements that were made. Jack addressed a few of them. But, use these monies elsewhere. And if it's not, I keep on using the word public purpose, whatever that defined public purpose is, parks, fire stations, wherever you want. Here's a chance to take those dollars, leverage them and move forward. So
Are we inserting that paragraph that you just referenced? Just to demonstrate another purpose for it?
Yep.
I would like to see less verbiage. Certainly that workforce housing comes out. But even even with it out, it could be construed to be inclusive if we're talking about to address crucial community needs. Because that is the umbrella under which the county commissioner, I should say Commissioner Woodward specifically is using to create an opening for workforce housing. I would like to see it that to use otherwise you could continue for crucial community needs throughout Palm Beach County, excluding Highland Beach. I mean, something if we do it broadly, then she could come back, or anyone could imply that it is so broad that it includes workforce housing, if that rises to the level of a crucial need.
I would caution slightly against saying anywhere else but Highland Beach. It kind of puts us at, stay away from us.
The way
You could say other critical county needs, other critical county purpose.
well, that still could encompass Highland Beach.
Yeah, but if you sold the property, you've lost that opportunity.
About this, how about, where it says best crucial community needs, maybe crucial community needs in unincorporated Palm Beach County. Because unincorporated Palm Beach County is about half of the county, half the county's cities, half it's unincorporated. Let's face it, most Palm Beach County projects are in unincorporated Palm Beach County. Yes, they have parks and Ocean Ridge in here in different places. That's a way of not saying not Highland Beach, but also saying not any city. That kind of threads that needle.
I guess I'm not in favor of those changes. I guess, could we hear from other commissioners if you feel strongly? I mean, there's a risk that including the verbiage about affordable housing and facility and is anyone else concerned about the risk of including that language?
No, I agree with you. I mean, this is financially not a place they're gonna put affordable housing that would cost them more money. And I think they're just, drawing, and she's making assessments that just coming out to get us to cave under. I don't think there's any chance. I'm okay with this verbiage.
But we shouldn't make that assumption that she wouldn't do it.
She doesn't get to
county.
do it. The county has to do it.
The county has,
The
it.
county.
She's only one.
Yeah, she's the only one.
Vice Mayor, any thoughts?
I'm comfortable with the way.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the way it's written also. Um, So you want to make a
Motion?
motion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for resolution 2024-003, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, supporting the sale of Milani Park and providing for an effective date.
I'll second.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes,
Commissioner David,
Yes,
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on to resolution number 2024-002, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach ratifying the selection, appointments, and term of office of members of the Financial Advisory Board and providing for an effective date. So we have one vacancy for the Financial Advisory Board, and we have two applicants. Do we have Harold Siegel here? Okay, Harold. If you could please come to the podium and just say a couple things, and each of the commissioners will have a chance to
Hi,
say hi.
I'm Harold Siegel. We live at 2109 South Ocean Boulevard. My wife and I bought our condominium in 2015. We became Florida residents in 2019. We've been down here. This will be our 9th season down here. We're down here seasonally. We still keep a home in Westport, Connecticut, where we've raised our 3 children, and we've been there for 38 years. We've really grown to love Highland Beach. And I'll speak about my background, and then I'll tell you how I think it'd be helpful. But I went to University of Colorado undergrad and then degree in finance and accounting. After that, I went to the University of Michigan and have an MBA in finance. I then joined Chemical Bank in New York in 1977. Spent 17 years there until 1994. I was lending money to oil and gas companies, and then later on loan syndication for corporate acquisition. So it was all on the corporate side of things. Then a group of us left Merrill in 1994. Left Chemical and went to Merrill Lynch, where we started the loan syndication business for Merrill. And I was there for 8 years. Again, the same type of thing, corporate finance, mostly raising money for acquisitions and mergers and that type of thing. After that, in 2003, I worked for 3 different asset management companies. And they were all focused on non-investment grade credit. And my role there was to raise institutional money from pension funds, insurance companies, endowments to invest in those type of products. So I did that until 2019. So that's 42 years of finance along the way. And I've been retired since early 2019. Since that time, I've joined the Highlands Place board. There are 3 of us on the board. I'm the treasurer. So in that regard, I handle things like, our budget, our capital forecasting, cash forecasting, and that type of thing. And I hadn't done anything in that realm before with a condominium, like I haven't done anything in a municipal, but I enjoyed that experience. And I think I've been very helpful in that regard. And I'd like to extend that to Highland Beach. We think it's a very special place. The improvements that we've seen since we've been here have been great. And yet I still want to, have an interest in maintaining a sound budget and sound capital position. And if I can be helpful in that regard, I would be very happy to do so.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Goldberg.
yes, thank you. Thank you for appearing and putting your
course.
name
Of
up
course.
for appointment. It's certainly your resume is outstanding. I mean, you have a broad and significant scope of experience in the financial markets. Just outstanding financial background. And I think that you would be of great benefit to our community.
Thank you.
And I
Commissioner.
welcome you. You have my support.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions? Anything I can?
Yeah, Harold, you got a great resume. I can't believe, in New York, were you in the city or in Westchester?
In the city,
In the city?
we lived in Westport and I commuted 50 miles every day to the city. So
Westport,
on a
yeah.
train. So it was, I'd leave the house before 6 in the morning, get home around 8 at night. So it was
Yeah,
pretty
good
full
thing.
time.
Yeah, Merrill Lynch, that's where I got all my money. You're doing good with it, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner.
Quite frankly, I'm blown away by your credentials.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We would be very lucky to have somebody of your caliber
Thank
on our financial
Thank
advisory
you. Thank you,
board.
Commissioner.
Vice Mayor?
Thanks for applying. Harold's on our board in Highlands Place and does all terrific things. He has great insight and great background and support him 100%. Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome and thank you for volunteering. I agree. I'm blown away by your credentials and we would be extremely fortunate to have you as part of the team. So thank you very much.
Well,
I
thank
am
you. I hope
in
that
full
happens.
support.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And we do have another applicant, Margarita Chapelier. Is she here? I don't see her. Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I move that we accept resolution number 2024-002 and
I second.
appoint Harold Siegel as the financial board member.
Seconded.
Roll call. Okay.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner David,
Yes,
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carries.
excellent. Thank you very much for volunteering. Congratulations. Okay, moving along to Police Officer of the Year Award.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. Remind me to never be on the agenda after Milani Park agenda items. Thank you. Each year, we recognize an officer for their work effort, their performance, and their exemplary service with our Police Officer of the Year Award. This year, we are proud to award that distinction to Sergeant Paul Shersty. Paul, you come up. Sergeant Shersty is a 12-year veteran in our department, more than 3.5 decades worth of police experience, but a file full of commendations, letters, and thank yous. He's a shift supervisor for us. He has management and responsibility of a squad and all police operations and service after hours, weekends, and holidays. And he is so valuable in this leadership role because he embraces that responsibility and accountability. He cares about what he does. In the field, he has this guardian mentality. He has that sense of duty to keep the residents safe and secure. We know how much our community values that, and we know how much they appreciate the personalized service that they're able to get. And Paul is perfect in this role. He's so comfortable in his contacts with the public. He makes personal connections, set an excellent example for our officers, and builds relationships that are so important because those relationships build trust. He's the best goodwill ambassador we have. In addition to his normal responsibilities, he oversees and manages the training schedule and operations of our police marine unit and operates the boat occasionally on weekends and holidays. Thank you, Deb and the family, for sharing so much of him with us. He seems like he's always here. He's our FTO coordinator, our field training officer coordinator, and a field training officer. That's critically important to what we do, training new officers. He does an excellent job at that. He's patient, he's methodical. He gives them that important critique and that critical feedback they need to grow as they enter our agency. And he acts as a mentor to them, to the new officers, and that stays with them as a coach. He's a PBA union representative. Last year, he led the contract negotiations at the table with reason and willingness to get to yes. And an outcome was a collective bargaining agreement done in just 2 meetings. I know you remember that. Without attorneys at the table. It was an agreement that was beneficial to both the union members in the town. And then when it was finalized, he wrote a letter to the PBA that got published in their newsletter, praising the town manager and the town commission for their commitment to their police officers in this town. Something that's really unheard of. It was a busy and exceptional year for Paul, and I'll leave you with one example of just some of his work from last year. One shift, he was dispatched to a call of a elderly person that was threatening family members with a knife. When the officers, all Paul and the other officer got there, that same person began threatening them and then made statements that she wanted to die. In that one instance, Paul put all the years of training, experience, wisdom, and patience into action. And because how he handled that situation, everyone was kept safe. And that person that was in crisis was unarmed, safe, and was able to get the help that she really needed. So it gives me a great pleasure here, Paul. And sometimes you work with somebody and you think, that you take that for granted, the good job that you do. We've worked together so long. But I want to be able to tell you here in front of everybody, and I'm glad your family, of how much I appreciate you. And I know what you do with the effort, time, and the passion that you put into this job. You're a great example of what a police officer should be. And I know the community feels the same way about him. So in front of your family and friends, it gives me real personal satisfaction to recognize you as our 2023 Highland Beach Police Officer of the Year, Sergeant Paul Shearstein. Get a picture with the commissioner. Can we get a picture with you, the commissioner, and Fred Paul? Mike,
Congratulations, well deserved.
you get a picture with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, move real quick. Okay.
Are you in here? Congratulations.
Thank you, Chief Hartman. I'd like to thank my family for putting up with me and coming out today. I had my wife, Debbie, here, almost 41 years married. My son, Paul, my mother-in-law, or my mother, Carol, my sister, Marie, my brother-in-law, Jim, and my daughter, Jennifer. My other daughter is up in Charlotte and just had a baby girl. I'd like for her to be here, but I'd like to thank Chief Hartman for this award. I am honored. And a few of the residents said that Highland Beach is a special place. It is a special place. I enjoy coming to work here. And I think it's a very unique place, and I'd like to keep it like it is. But thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, moving along, public comments for non-agenda items.
Hi there. I've had some great interactions and experiences with Sergeant Shearstein myself, so thank you, Sergeant Shearstein. You've all seen me up here before. I'm Tim Rotolo. My family has owned property at 3400 South Ocean Boulevard, just up the road in Highland Beach for over a quarter century now. My family also owns property in Boca Raton and elsewhere in Palm Beach County currently. My family has owned property from Boca Raton to Highland Beach to Delray Beach to Palm Beach Gardens from time to time since the mid-1980s. At least one person within the Highland Beach leadership appears to take pleasure in calling me Timothy, as well as some other highly derogatory code names like the anti-Semite, the nuisance, starts with an R, 14L, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to assure you I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't think I'm a nuisance. I like to raise people's awareness when I see wrongdoing. On January 22nd of this year, I first learned that just about every member of the Highland Beach Planning Board blocked my electronic mail contact with them. I want to start by thanking the Committee to Save Highland Beach for their long-term oversight of Highland Beach activities. I really enjoyed hearing the gentleman who leads that organization, whose name escapes me at the moment, state at a Highland Beach Town Commission meeting last month that he is disbanding the organization because he has utmost confidence in you as a commission and in the town leadership. I echo his statements there, which, as you may know, are extremely rare. I've never known a commission where the mayor, vice mayor, and a commissioner are all running for re-election unopposed and therefore automatically reinstalled. It is absolutely amazing and unheard of. I commend you. Thank you for what you've already done, for what you're doing, and for what I'm also confident you will continue to do. Me and my mother have similar confidence in the recently installed president and board of directors of our family Boca Raton property, Gail Andrews, who we believe to be a retired judge and who obviously to us acts with fairness and reasonableness with her every act. This makes our family very comfortable owning that property. On the morning of January 22nd, I emailed you all and others about an attorney, Kenneth S. Director, and his firm, Becker and Polyakov, who I believe represents at least one condominium association in town, and who I also believe has done so for years. That is the Coronado at Highland Beach Condominium Association, Inc., Coronado. In my email, I told you I felt it was extremely important. I inform you it is my understanding, and I have reason to believe that Mr. Director and his firm, Becker and Polyakov, represented the Champlain Towers South Association in Surfside, Florida at the time of its collapse. I provided a link to a website, HOA Talk, where you could read about Mr. Director and his firm, Becker and Polyakov. I ask you to please note the gross over litigation. That HOA Talk content contains information speaking to how Becker and Polyakov apparently advocated against safety statewide for decades. I also believe Mr. Director and his firm, Becker and Polyakov, represented the building that collapsed for years leading up to that disastrous collapse. The Coronado closed its Ocean Club more than once last month to host groups of people who do not own property there. I know at least one of you attended, maybe two, maybe more. I spoke with at least one of you who attended one of those groups in advance of a meeting where I'm told Mr. Director may have been invited to speak or preach. That group apparently calls itself the Beach Condo Association. It's my understanding its member associations span all the way from Boca Raton to Highland Beach to Delray Beach. On the evening of January 22nd, I also sent a simple email to the Beach Condo Association president, whose email address I gathered from its website, beachcondoassociation.com. That email, if you don't mind, just a little bit more time, I have about a quarter page to
Yeah,
go.
if you could please wrap up.
That email was similar to the one I sent you earlier that same day, updated for new circumstances.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Time's up.
The first response I received from BCA President Emily Gentile was rather disturbing to me.
I think time's up. So thank you very much. Thank you for your comment. Any other comments? Father Horgan.
Members of the commission, Father Horgan from St. Lucie Catholic Church. I felt I'd like to just come and explain why St. Lucie cannot host the primaries, the referendum, and the presidential election.
It certainly is not any reflection of our relationship. I want you to know that. That decision was not made at my level, it was made at a higher level, way above my pay grade. The reason behind it was we found in different parishes throughout the diocese that there tended to be conflict. There tended to be not aggression, but people weren't behaving themselves appropriately. And as you know, with the signage issue, they can place signs all over the parish parking lot, which those don't like. Also, with the presidential election, we have found that there could be trouble between, say, pro-life issues and anti-pro-life issues. And they could become very heated and may not be resolved appropriately. So I just wanted you to know it is in no way a reflection of my relationship with each and every one of you, neither that of my community. I would hope in the future that we would be able to assist in the voting. But again, I'm sorry for the burden it'll place on you here. But overall, looking at it objectively and standing back, I think it might be better this year because of the issues. So, you know, places of faith are always sources of unity and never sources of disunity. And unfortunately, because of the situations that we find ourselves in, there tends to be a lot of disunity and aggression that tends to surface. So if that is the case, at least it will occur here and not at St. Lucie. So, but I do hope in the future things will be resolved. But I did feel it appropriate to that you know, and the members of Highland Beach know, that we stand right behind everything you do. Thank you.
But thank you for Mingle Jingle. That was great.
Yes, thank you, Father Horgan,
Thank
for
you.
explaining that to us. And we really do appreciate, and we appreciate all that you have done in partnership with us. And we
Yes.
definitely see you as an excellent partner.
And we understand completely. There's no problem.
Any other public comments? Ron?
Ron Ramey again from Dalton Place. I'm not sure what, the only reason I'm saying something is I'm not sure what the gentleman who disappeared for a second, making comments about Ken Director and so forth. I just wanted you to know Ken Director's been my attorney over Price, of course, but for the last 14 years, and we have not had any issues with Ken Director, so I'm not sure what that was all about, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Becker Polikoff represents a huge number of condos throughout this state, so I'm not sure where he was going either.
Any other comments? Seeing none, moving on to ordinances. Ordinance number 2024-001. This is the second reading, an ordinance of the Town Commission of Town of Highland Beach. It's the lighting restrictions for the protection of sea turtles. And I turn it over to Ingrid.
Good afternoon. For the record, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. So if the commission recalls, you did have a first read on this ordinance back on December 5th. And your discussion or your commentary on that meeting was pretty straightforward, right? I actually provided the comment on page 23 of your packets. You did have a concern regarding the word shall as it pertains to the minimizing the interior light from existing structures. And it was suggested that the word shall be softened and that the option for other remedial measures be provided. So again, on page 23, I provided you some revised language. If you'd like to see that on the actual ordinance itself, it's on page 34. So the proposed language would read, existing structures require compliance with one or more of the following remedial measures in order to minimize interior light emanating within the light of sight of the beach. And again, this is interior light. So we have A, B, and C, which have not changed. A is apply window tint or film that meets the light transmittance standards for tinted glass. B, rearrange the lamps, televisions, and other movable fixtures away from the windows. C, use opaque shades or room darkening window treatments. For example, blinds, curtains, screens to shield interior lights from the beach. And then we added that D, other remedial measures not provided for herein may be approved by the building official. The rest of the staff memorandum basically just gives you an overview of the various public hearings that we've had regarding this item. I don't believe Joanne Ryan made it today, our sea turtle permit holder. I believe she was going to attend. She may have had a last minute change. But we do have on Zoom, staff from the Sea Turtle Conservancy. If you recall back in December, they were on Zoom. They were able to address some of your questions. So we're happy to address any that you may have.
I know you pre-answered a question about, I had railings, because like we replaced our windows. And do we have to do our railings? And you said that, I guess, would be exception, because we do our glass, it's for panels of glass or something, a little bit different. She was explaining to me, but when I look at all the pictures.
Yeah.
Almost everybody is, I mean, I feel sorry for the code enforcement. He's gonna, I mean, some of the buildings are just lit up. I mean, I don't know. I know, even my building has got a couple of spots there, and it's people that I never expected. Some of the people that I must have been home, the ones that have kind of bright lights, but are they gonna go around and give tickets or advise them that, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the code enforcement will be handled by our building official. I know Marshall has spoken to this issue about enforcement. We already have,
We already
you know,
do
yeah.
that. So basically we'll get a complaint. Usually they're coming from the turtle folks in the morning because they're out there really early and they'll say, hey, turn the lights off, turn this down when it comes through. Most folks
Must be,
comply. They're like, oh, sorry, I forgot about that.
Then
We'll turn it off. And this is a progressive ordinance. It's going to be over time where you'll see reconstruction, rebuild, full window replacement. Those things are what's going to bring it online. So it's something we're putting in place to go over time. Some of those pictures, if we recall, we had a resident say, hey, they went out and took pictures. You know, the resident I'm talking about that's really on this issue. Those are different type of lens opening on the photos. So they're not as bright, but yes, you can see it. And that's kind of why we at times excluded the west side of A1A, because you could sit anywhere on a beach and look up and down the coast, you will see light somewhere. The idea is to keep it the east side and immediate proximity light down so that doesn't disorient the hatchlings when they come out. So, I mean, we've turned this down a little bit. Folks are moving to that. I know that some of you have even spoken to what your buildings have done. So it's, you know, down lighting, A1A lights change. So we're doing a good job. Again, we want to maintain that critical habitat that we do provide, make sure that is protected now and into the future. And over time, we will make those improvements. We had that light, the glass sample at the last meeting where we kind of saw there was not that much. And most folks are putting in without even knowing at that, whatever, 45% or whatever.
Yes.
They're already there in most of the windows that you do purchase.
I noticed last time that the doors here at the library block it considerably. You can see when it just opened. So I don't know if that's 45, but if it's not, it's close. And there's no problem seeing through it. So I like this ordinance the way it's written. I would just like sometime in the future, a definition for nighttime.
Nighttime. I think there was a reference, I think it was Ms. Goldberg, you had brought that up at one of the previous meetings. Again, when you look at the definition of, let's see, I know it's in here. I think it does talk about dusk. Hold on.
I believe it did.
Yes, just bear with me. I'll find where it was. I had written it down here because I remember it was, yeah. Bear with me. Oh, it's a lot of pages to go through. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, page 29 of your packets. So letter D, which is the current language that we have in the code at the bottom of the page. Again, we left this as is. Says lighting restrictions along the beach. No artificial light shall illuminate any area of the beach which may be used for turtle nesting and hatching during the period from March 1st to October 31st of each year from dusk to dawn. So that's somewhat of a way of addressing the nighttime.
Because my thoughts were in the summer, when it stays light a lot later and people want to take a walk on the beach after dinner or something.
Right.
I don't want them to be inhibited from doing that. They should be allowed to use the back of their homes or walk on the beach. So I'm not sure how that would fit in.
We're talking about if they're carrying a light? Is that what I'm not sure. Is that what you're talking?
No, because dusk isn't really dark. So, and I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to see a light at dusk because it's still going to be light out. And the other thing I was thinking about earlier was, what about when there's no real moon because it's covered by clouds? And then you might need some sort of light to help you out.
Are you talking like exterior lights at a building, or
Well-
you're talking about
well,
walking on the beach or?
I was more thinking walking on the beach, but because in the buildings, they can have exterior lights that go
Right.
down. There are parameters that we know that they can have that. But if somebody wants to walk on the beach and it's not really full dark, but you can't see much because there's gray clouds covering everything.
Right. Well, again, keep in mind, the ordinance is really talking about existing structures, interior light and exterior light. I know somebody walking on the beach, you would hope they make their best effort. I don't recall the ordinance really tackling somebody walking on the beach. We're talking about actual, as I said, exterior lights on a building, interior lights. I think that's unfortunately going to be a reality, right, with people walking. You know, I think if this ordinance does eventually get approved by the commission, I know that the Natural Resource Board has shown some interest in possibly working on some educational outreach. And I think that will be a very important component to this. I already have information that I've gathered from Florida Fish and Wildlife. Again, a lot of outreach is already out there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's some great information out there that we could, advise people, for those who like to walk on the beach, you can just have a brochure just on walking on the beach and best practices. So I think it's really just a matter of educating people that when you are on the beach, outside from the exterior lights or interior lights, be mindful of what's happening during turtle season. We could do some really great outreach projects, advising people, educating them. Yeah. I have a
question. Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Allen, I had asked you before, and I'd like to open it for discussion. How does this affect catwalk buildings that are on the west?
So as I mentioned to you, if you go to page 29 of the ordinance or of the packets is the actual ordinance. So letter C is the applicability. So let's go through this. So the ordinance applies to beachfront properties and to all exterior lighting of properties located on the west side within the town that may produce artificial light directly, indirectly, or cumulatively visible from any portion of the beach. Now, if you go to page 33 of the packet, here's the exterior lighting regulation. So this is exterior lighting and new exterior lighting on properties that are on the west side of A1A. So if you read under J1, again, we're on the middle of page 33, it says upon replacement, and only if a building permit is required, then if the exterior lighting on a building on the west side, if you could see it from the beach, then if they're planning to replace it, then it would have to put an amber bulb, or maybe it's just a matter of, look at these regulations on the bottom of page 33, reposition, replace the fixture, maybe provide a shield. That's all they would have to do if they want to put something new. If you're not going to change anything, it's not triggered here. So once you change it for something new, yeah, maybe it's a matter of just putting an amber bulb or turning it down or shielding it.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, under existing structures, could you explain D, please? It says other remedial measures not provided for within may be approved by the building official. Before that, you give specifics. That's kind of a very broad thing. Would you explain that
Okay, that's the new provision, the new one?
on page 23?
Yeah, so basically we're giving some options here to deal with interior light. We're giving some guidance here, and if there's some other thing that you can do, that regulation provides for some unique thing that we may not have documented here. So the door's open if somebody comes up with some really amazing technology and the building official feels that it's appropriate, then that's what that is
These
for.
are just alternatives.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
just, we're kind of leaving it a little bit open. So I think that was again what the commission's direction was. So it was written that way in case anything great and amazing comes up in the near future. In the long term.
Yeah, I liked these changes because the concern that was brought up was we didn't want to put an ordinance in and then all these people all of a sudden are in violation of the ordinance. So it was this section which
Yeah.
was modified to make it softer, to provide for, and it's just like Ingrid is saying, like, what if something great comes up that we didn't anticipate, want something other than these three options, it leaves another option to comply that maybe we haven't thought of. And I think this is a good way to address that concern that was raised by residents that, we didn't want to immediately make people, he said criminals, by implementing this. So I really like the solution because once this goes into place, people with existing structures, there's no immediate action that anyone really has to take. No one's, in violation or anything like that. So I like the changes that were put in. I'm in favor with the way that this ordinance is written. I'm ready to approve it, but I'm interested in what everyone else has.
No, I have a question with regard to of the county, Emalani Park. There was a discussion by the team that was speaking relative to questions of safety on the beach, of putting lighting in. What lighting could be placed on the beach after dusk?
You're talking about like an actual light post or something like that? on
Well,
the beach?
or low to the ground for the path? What, any lighting? What would be permissible, if anything?
Well, there's a lot of options. I think the ordinance does talk about dune walkovers. I think there's a provision in here about dune walkovers. Yes, page 33. I think this is maybe where you're going, a dune walkover. Says lighting of beach access points shall be located and configured to only illuminate areas landward of the beach and frontal dune. All lighting of beach access points shall be long wavelength, downward directed, full cutoff, and fully shielded, and should not be directly or indirectly cumulatively visible from the beach. Lights are allowable on dune walkovers or elevated boardwalks only as required for building code purposes and may only be installed landward of the frontal dune. Walkover lights shall not be indirectly cumulatively visible from the beach. So, I mean, there's all kinds of bollards and, all kinds of things. Low, I mean, the ordinance talks about these low type of lights rather than a high, you could go with a lower light. So there's many options. If the commission recalls, I believe it was at the May 2023 meeting, I provided you a PowerPoint and I gave you all the various types of certified wildlife lighting. These are all provided on the Florida Fish and Wildlife. I gave you an example of each type. They have lampposts. I mean, they have all kinds and there were like 20, 30 pages in addition to what I was showing you. There's just hundreds and hundreds of different options. I mean, it's not just one bulb. It's, a variety of options. So,
Okay, because that was a concern of mine.
Yeah.
That they would illuminate it, contrary to the proposed ordinance.
well, again, if there was anything new, right, where we have the provisions for new, that it has to be in compliance, whether if it's just like you said, lighting of the beach, obviously tinting is not the issue, but a downward facing light, right? Just basically what I just mentioned, amber light. And those are still lights that can be utilized, to be able to see well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved our lights to walk over into the beach for Amber, and it seems it's enough that people can walk down and we don't disturb the turtles.
Yeah, and if I may add, the Florida Fish and Wildlife has a whole thing about safety, with lights. And again, I think if the commission does approve this, this is another component that I think we could do a great educational outreach to the residents. As I said, there's a great information out there. There's not a lot of reinventing that we have to do. It's just a matter of getting it out there. Yeah.
And this was approved by the planning board, the Natural Preservation and
Yes.
Resources Board. We've had the Fish and Wildlife.
We've had Gumbo Limbo comment as
yeah.
well.
The Turtle Volunteers have weighed in. They're in favor. This has been through a lot of rigor.
This has been through
And
quite a bit.
I've seen some of the lighting that complies with this, and it's definitely sufficient so that you can see your way. I think it's definitely sufficient lighting, and I noticed along A1A there's some new amber lighting, right? And it's pretty bright. I mean, I go for walks in the evening or jogs, and I can definitely see the sidewalk and where I'm going. So I do think it's sufficient, safe lighting for people. Okay, can we have a motion, please?
I move that we approve ordinance number 2024-001.
Seconded.
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure we read the title of that ordinance. Did we?
Oh, and should I open for public comments? No.
I'll be happy.
So
Okay.
read
Oh,
the
okay.
entire ordinance.
You want me to read it?
Go ahead.
All right, an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach,
Oh, I
Florida.
guess I need to-
Oh.
Sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I need to
Yeah,
read it.
we
All
got
right.
3 people read it.
Ah.
Can we read it all together in unison? I'm good.
So ordinance number 2024-001, an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending section 4-8, lighting restrictions for protection of sea turtles of chapter 4 animals, and section 30-85 coastal lighting of chapter 30 zoning of the Town Code of Ordinances to incorporate lighting regulations for new and existing coastal structures in order to minimize the effect of artificial light on sea turtle populations, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability and codification, and providing an effective date. The first reading was December 5th, 2023. And I should call for public comments now that the motion's been made. Any public comments about this? No. Okay, now we can go for a roll call.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carries.
excellent. Okay, thank you, everyone.
And we have
Consent agenda. There's one item in the consent agenda. Anybody need a presentation on it, or if not, oh, go ahead.
Just one comment. I spoke to the chief, just gonna add our standard addendum to this. We usually have an addendum that talks about the inspector general, sunshine law, things like that. But other than that, we're good to go.
Yeah, you don't, it's consent agenda.
So we can move on, like, okay, so we can have it.
Okay. I move that we approve item 8 on the agenda, the consent agenda.
We have a second.
Second.
Seconded.
Can we, all in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
saved you. Saved you from coming up.
Consent agenda is approved unanimously. Moving on to unfinished business, fire rescue implementation update.
Afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. We made some progress. Before we get started, I want to congratulate Sergeant Shursty on his achieving Officer of the Year. It's a huge honor, and I think well deserved. So let's start with the construction. We made some progress, as you could tell. So the folding doors are in, they're wiring them up this week, so it should be operating by the end of the week. Huge. So after that's done, the next major step is to prep and pour the apron, which they're starting to do today. They're doing it right now. So the front apron is gonna be painted. It's gonna be done this started this week. Painting, all the first and second floor are painted. And the last area to be painted is the bay floors. That'll be done this week, later on this week. North grading of the parking lot is on the way, so they're actually tapping down the stone, and that's the next major step. First floor, all the lights are in, air conditioning is in. 70% of the flooring is in, and we're starting to put the appliances is the next step. Second floor, we have air conditioning starting today, and the floor installation should be underway soon, within the next day or so. We have one critical path that's maybe not a problem, but an issue. And that's the elevator. The elevator company has basically delayed installation for about 3 weeks now. It's not critical for TCO, but it would be nice to have the elevator in place for the open house and those kind of things. And so the Kaufman has just about guaranteed that everything will be in by that time. They're expecting the delivery of parts to begin on Thursday with the installation. We want to get the elevator in slots so that we can actually fill out the walls and put the doors in and finish. That's the holdup right now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have the elevator begin delivering on Thursday, begin installation, and that would not slow anything down. We're still on track for a TCO at the end of the month. And we're still on track for that. So we're doing good. Staffing wise, we have all the positions for captain are filled. We have 3 people that have already accepted the position, and 1 that's we're doing some background stuff on that candidate, but he's a strong candidate. I have no expectation I wouldn't have any problem with him. Firefighter drivers, out of 7 out of the 8 have accepted the position already, so they're actual employees with a start date of March 11th. We have 1 outstanding, waiting for some paperwork from the state. I have every confidence that that's going to go through, so we'll have everybody on board. Of the paramedics, we need 16. We have 14 that have been given jobs with the start date of March 18th. So we have 2 vacancies and about 30 applicants we have to go through to pick the last 2. So we'll begin that process with Theresia and with interviews early next week and try to get that gap closed up. But we're doing very well. The 24/7 has made a huge difference in the number of applicants and the quality of applicants. If we had more time, I'd probably reopen it and hire somebody else because we're getting a lot better selection. Equipment wise, we pick up the fire truck from Pride on Friday. They've had it for 2 months now, and they're still dragging their feet on getting the painting done. We'll have it. He said he'll have it done before we pick it up on Friday, but whether or not he does, we got to bring the truck down here because we got to get moving. Radios, installations, and those kind of things. So either way, we'll have the truck on site by next week. We'll drop it off at 10/8 to get the radio installed on the computer equipment, and then goes to Palm Beach County to be calibrated on their system. So let's see. So we have to put all the stuff in there. The Zoll monitors you just approved. That's going to give us 1 monitor on each emergency unit, so there's no delay. And if we have to transfer from one truck to the next, or if you have a second concurrent call, there's the pickup equipment. You just bring the personnel over, and then you could take off. Minimize the turnaround. So at this point, any questions? By the end of next week, hopefully, we'll have the second floor just about painted down. We'll take the scaffolding down, and they'll be easier to access, because right now we have scaffolding, the painting higher up, so not the least dangerous place to be. A lot of people walking height. So by the end of next week, we should be able, if you want to take a tour of the station, it'll be easier, just put a helmet on, and it'll be easy walking through. And by the time we get the elevators in, it'll be even easier. But most of the painting is done. The walls are in place, the doors are in place, locks are in place. So we're making good progress. Questions?
Excellent news. Thank you very much. We're all very excited.
We have one, but there's one more thing, like Steve Jobs says. We've got a plan for the ribbon cutting and the dedication. We need dates. We need any kind of direction from you as well for what you want to see and who you want invited. Well, not necessarily all that, but just I need some direction. The manager will probably communicate that to me.
Yeah.
And then we'll
start reaching out, kind of getting some ideas. I want to meet with Kaufman to see what kind of access we'll have and finished surfaces and stuff, so we can have a little event, indoor, outdoor, Bay Area, kind of coordinate it. and have a little event.
Great.
Yeah.
Look forward
Oh,
to it.
With the TCO, just as an FYI,
Mhm.
parking lot should be just about 90%, 100% done. Front, so you'll have access and parking in the front, so all that will be done. At least safe enough that people can, so there will not be any pile.
Yeah, but I think the police and fire foundation want to participate as well to kind of maybe start doing a little fundraising with it so people can have access to that organization and can make donations to
That's
support
correct.
public safety. So
I spoke to them about the last meeting, which was last Monday night, and they're very happy to participate in any way we see fit for them to participate. So with your blessings, they'll talk with the manager and then come up with some kind of a coordination, some cooperation.
That sounds good.
Questions, comments?
Is it proper to invite like some of the other agencies, the county chiefs?
Generally, I will send invites to all the fire chiefs in
Okay.
in the county.
Good.
We're all members of
Right.
Palm Beach County Fire Chiefs Association, so they will get an invite.
Good. Good.
And so, yeah.
A significant event.
Yes.
Yes.
Significant event,
Yeah.
both emotionally and.
Yeah, right?
professionally.
It's
Is
awesome.
it?
It's been a long ride, but I think we're getting close to
It
the
is.
end, and I think we've all done a great job. And that, last time I did not recognize some very important people that helped us out a lot with construction, and I was reminded of it. For the building department, Carol, the crew up there, Kate and Jeff, and these guys are very helpful in getting all the permits and everything done. Of course, utilities, water department, city
Mhm.
clerk's office, even the library, I mean, they give us supports to have meetings and all that, so they've been very instrumental in getting all this done, and I neglected much of that last time. But I
And-
wanted to recognize everybody that's been so helpful in making this project a success.
Yes. Thank you to everyone. Really, it's been a team effort for sure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
saw Jeff up there one day with his hard hat on the top floor and the roof there, and I said, "Oh, you're brave."
Oh, he's tough, he's tough. He definitely gets in. Question? Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Next item, Florida Department of, oh, go ahead. If you have a public comment about the fire rescue implementation update, go ahead. 3 minutes.
Hello. You've all seen me up here before, most recently earlier today. I'm Tim Rotolo. My family has owned property at 3400 South Ocean Boulevard, just up the road in Highland Beach for over a quarter century now. My family also owns property in Boca Raton and elsewhere in Palm Beach County. Currently, my family has owned property from Boca Raton to Highland Beach to Delray Beach to Palm Beach Gardens from time to time since the mid-1980s. I'm not sure why you stopped me before, but I'm just gonna reiterate some of the things that I went through. And because this is a safety issue. The fire rescue implementation is a safety update. And I had mentioned before that Becker and Polyakov apparently advocated against safety statewide for decades. I think Highland Beach has exceptional leadership in just about every case. The fire chief is outstanding from what I can see, and I think my family and myself have the utmost confidence in the fire chief, the police chief, the town manager, right on down the list.
Is your comment about the fire implementation update?
It's about safety.
The topic that we are discussing is a fire rescue implementation
And that's
update.
a safety, public safety.
No, the item is about fire rescue implementation update. Is that what your comment's about? This is not an open, this is, public comments are for this particular item.
It's getting to that.
Okay.
So at least one person within the Highland Beach leadership appears to take pleasure in calling me Timothy, as well as referring to me as some other highly derogatory code names like the anti-Semite, the nuisance, starts with an R. I forgot to mention the mama's boy last time. Again, this Becker and Polyakov apparently advocates against safety statewide for decades, like fire rescue implementation is a safety issue. I could see them advocating against that. So I'm going to pick up where I left off. On the evening of January 22nd, I also sent a simple email to the Beach Condo Association president, whose email address I gathered from its website, beachcondoassociation.com. That email was similar to the one I sent you earlier that same day, updated for new circumstances. The first response I received back from BCA
Time's up.
President
Time's
Emily
up.
Gentile.
Sir, time's up. And any comments during this section of the meeting have to be in response to
I
the
was
item that's
getting
being
to that,
discussed.
But
Okay. Next item, Florida Department of Transportation, R project update.
March 7th, public meeting, 5 to 6 virtual, 6 to 7 in person here at the public library. And if you briefly recall, I did send traffic data counts to you all, just so you know, like for South County, we have the busiest portion of A1A just north of Spanish River. So we do have the busiest spot on A1A. I know that relates to other items, but again, it shows the traffic count and the volume of folks. So when we start doing the reconstruction, I would tell anyone watching, just expect some delays. No matter how they coordinate it, it's going to be a little disruptive, but we'll try to hear more about that in March. So hopefully by then we'll have everybody in place, and Brad will transition over to the construction team, and we'll see what FDOT's got to say. So it's important to, at least listen in so you know what the MOT is going to look like when we get there, which is, means of transportation and traffic.
What do you mean 5 to 6 virtual? And can you explain that? I mean,
Nope.
it's a duplication of what?
I wish I could. He said 5 to 6 virtual. So I think there's going to be like an online portion, 5 to 6. So you could, zoom in and they'll hold a meeting just for folks on Zoom. And then 6 to 7, they'll do the state it all over again in this room from 6 to 7. I know. It's, I think it's to
Okay.
accommodate folks that can't make it so they can zoom in at a separate coordination meeting, and then they'll turn it over to a public. We'll get more as soon as I promise you, as soon as we get more details on this. I know Delray was asking, their traffic engineer was asking that too. Like, what exactly are we to expect? And they said more information forthcoming before the meeting date. So hopefully as we get closer, they'll give us a little more what is virtual 5 to 6. So.
Next item, continued discussion of Milani Park. Sir, if this must be related to Milani Park, if there's a repeat of what we've heard before.
It's FDOT.
Oh, we're still talking about, okay, I was moving on to the next item. You wanted to make comments about the Florida Department. Okay. It cannot be a repeat of what you have already. Okay.
I don't need to reintroduce myself. So our property at the Coronado at Highland Beach, our family property, is currently for sale after 25 plus years of family ownership. My mother feels strongly that this Florida Department of Transportation issue is going to be very disruptive to our commuting up and down the A1A. She wants to be out of there before it starts. We've had trouble selling the condo. She first mentioned that she wanted to sell it back in February of 2022. We started getting the word out by word of mouth. Then last summer, we listed the property with a real estate agent for 6 months. And we didn't have not even one offer presented to us in 6 months' time. Just last month, we relisted the property with another broker, another agent. And it's only been listed for a few weeks, but the price came down by almost $100,000 from the first listing. And so I'd like to read some more of what I was saying before is the first response I received from BCA President Emily Gentile was rather disturbing to me. She effectively said that Becker and Polyakoff, or she had no association, the BCA had no association with Becker and Polyakoff. I went straight to the website for the BCA.
Sir,
And
what
it
does this
listed-
have to do with the RRR project update?
Because I'm talking about how we're trying to get out of Highland Beach. due to
Okay,
that.
I don't think that that's relevant to the item that we're discussing. Thank you very much for your comments. We're going to move on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question to Town Manager Jack Halpern, 45 Ocean, 45 Ocean, 4511 Ocean, whatever. Same place. On this thing coming up, I assume it's going to be presentation only. There's not going to be taking any comments, questions.
I think there's going to be some comments and questions, but I'll clarify that. But usually they'll let you ask questions. They're just going to give you, here's how we're going to do this. And
But we're at pretty close to what, 80% design for this meeting?
oh, you're going to have the contractor with complete, the
Okay,
plans
so
are
they're
done on the bid.
100%. Yeah, okay. Just want to verify.
It's more like a means and method kind of meeting where the contractor is going to tell you how they're going to
Okay.
carry this out. Yeah,
So we'll get to ask them questions on terms of how they're going to be scheduling and stuff like that, and
exactly.
how blocked out traffic's going to be. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Next item, continued discussion of Milani Park. Anything?
So yeah, we got into most of it earlier, so that's good. So this will be a little bit quicker. Again, staying the course. We're going to be meeting this week with each of you to kind of give you more insights as to what's occurring. I generally don't want to, televise our strategy just yet. I want to kind of run it by each of you first, get your minds involved exactly how you want to carry this out as a collective, give you some updates that we're hearing on the commission side, from the county commission side, what we're hearing from Commissioner Woodward and our consultants, and then you tell me if like it, don't like the direction. So it's moving along. Again, I thank the residents for showing up last Thursday. I think that really was helpful. I got nervous. I get nervous pretty much all the way through this, but nervous that, what kind of crowd, again, we showed in strength. Again, 300 people. We're here, not 150. Before I came in, we were discussed at the end of the commissioner comments at the county commission meeting today. It appears, some of the county commissioners know what's going on and have asked insightful questions. So it's starting to get out. So was an interesting question. The one commissioner said how many people were in support of it. And the county could say one person, and then there's a few cards that were kind of liking it, but they didn't like parking. That was basically their comments, but they, I don't think have been authorized to talk to legal yet. That seemed to be what I got from the assistant county administrator. They need to circle back with county to start answering commissioner questions. So, hold our course, continue moving forward. We told a lot of folks after the meeting, there'll be another meeting. If not here, maybe we try to get everybody to the county commission, so they can see the numbers, hear our voices yet again, as we move forward. So, we'll start meeting and calling more often. Things change this morning. Good. So thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Nell, to keep me on pace too. A lot of things happened this morning. Every day, it seems like every couple hours, things kind of change. So it's a dynamic process. I think our position is strong. We're making that message clear. And again, you guys kind of covered, some of what seems to be unsubstantiated statements, which could be called a threat or whatnot. Those things have not been substantiated. There isn't unilateral decision-making within any of the contracts. So it's the collective of the county commission has to make those decisions to do anything to this agreement. The statement is that the agreement you see, the design or what the parameters of the park that you see within the settlement agreement was the town approved site plan. We were in court. It's like negotiating with the gun at your head. It's not really what we wanted. It was basically what was a forced negotiation to settle a lawsuit. That doesn't mean we wanted it. What you saw in that agreement, what you see in that agreement, all residents can see on site, it was a court settlement. We were losing in court. We had to settle, and those were the agreed upon settlement of the Milani Park situation. We didn't say this is what we wanted. This is what we were forced to accept and had to settle at some point in some element. So we're working through all those things. I think the county's doing a little bit of learning, a little bit of catching up. Some of the commissioners that have been around a little bit longer seem to be a little more educated on the issues, and I think it'll pick up pace over the next, couple of months here and our issues. But again, we have meetings scheduled, very insightful. They're good. And if we can, maybe I'll start getting a standing meeting just so once a week we're talking about this for an hour, each of us independent, one-on-one. So we're following all the sunshine law. So it takes a little bit longer. Like I said, it gets frustrating on that part, but we'll begin to cover it. But things are progressing. We had a good turnout. I think they're getting our message.
Thank you. Thank you for that synopsis.
Oh.
So
Yeah, that's the other part. You want to cue
You want
that
me
up, David? Do you have a handout? So I got too quick. I thought I'd get us out of here a little faster, but this was just the request. As we recall, Commissioner Goldberg had brought up the idea or possibility of why don't we buy the property, make that contingent offer? I know the county commissioner said something, or the county's contention is can't sell it for a profit. Vice Mayor called me independently and said, hey, what's $3.9 million from 1987 in today's dollars, right? What would that be? And that's $11.64 million is that $3.9 million original purchase. No profit, just an adjustment at property value. But David kind of shows you, at 15, 20, 25 million, it'd be less if you were to offer 11.6 or 12 or whatever that is. And kind of tells you, what kind of millage increase would you be looking at? A $15 million with closing costs. Again, these are very conservative, open estimates. These aren't like dialed in. So we just kind of took a shot off on some numbers. So you're looking at a millage increase of about 9% on the lower side, up to like 15%. Could be a little bit lower. So you say 7 to 15%, depending on your price, would be the increase, assuming everything holds, no property value increase, or millage rate stays the same. That's how to generate the funds. He looked at over a 30-year window at 5%. Basically, we had to come up with $1 million a year to pay for it over 30 years. So again, if there is true interest and we ever get to that point, those numbers would dial in and we'd have better options or ideas of what the cost and but this is just kind of a shooting from the hip, what you could expect the cost to be if we decide to purchase it. It could be a good idea to force the issue because we don't know what we're going to run into. Think of this as another tool in the toolbox that we have to stop the park. Is everyone's not knowing what to do, make an offer. We lose nothing by that. They could say no, they could say yes. Right of first refusal, who knows? But if we start and get engaged and say, at least it shows the seriousness of intent and purpose that, we'll buy it then. If you don't want to do it, just sell it to us. And, but David kind of ran the numbers and whatever you want to ask him.
yeah, so I would just like to, further the discussion. Thank you for preparing this. I would like to know, well, before I get to my question, I was left with the feeling that if on the outside chance, we in fact had the opportunity that the county did not go forward, the property was up for sale, that the town step up as a participant to negotiate a purchase. So I'd like to know what the ad valorem effect would be, an impact with regard to these three scenarios, a 9%, 12%, or 15% increase in the mill rate.
Right. And so what I did there, you can see there's a column there that says 2024. If you see it right here, madam.
Yes.
And so that's our existing millage. And those are all the items that make up our millage. Here's the great thing. The town of Highland Beach is in an excellent position. We're, I think, the third lowest millage rate of a coastal community. Okay, so we can expand a little bit, we can expand that, but at the end of the day, so if, again, scenario one is if it was 15 million, I'm expecting about a 0.3158 mil, millage rate. You see that I highlighted it there in yellow. That's based on our current property values of over $3.5 billion. And I'm only allowed to budget for a 96% of it. I can't budget the full 100% of it. So that's how those numbers there are calculated. So at the end of the day, you can see there's a lot of assumptions here, but at least it gives you a big picture. We know, as Marshall had said, that we know what the inflationary index value of the $3.9 million is. It's about 11.6, and so at the end of the day, to answer your question, you can see there, it would range from about 0.3158 mils to as high as 0.52 mils.
Did you say that assumes the growth of 11 point?
No. There was no growth in
Okay.
assumption here. What I had to do is I had to go with what I know. And so what do I know right now? I know what our current millage is. I know what our current values are. Okay, so this right here assumes that it happened right now. And what would that change the millage? We can look at that in the next June. We'll come out with the new property values. That number there will change, obviously. We start our budget process in the month of March, April, starting to get accumulated information. So we'll have better figures, but as far as planning, you would expect that our millage could increase between 9 to 15%. And the town would own the property.
So you cannot hypothesize today, throw out a number of what the impact would be on our taxes.
Yeah, I think
In actual dollars.
Yeah, the increase to our taxes would be 9 to 15%. So if you're
right.
paying, 20,000 in taxes or whatever, your taxes are going to go up $2,000. So we're all paying for that property. So if you're paying 10,000 in taxes, your taxes will go up another $1,000 a year for that property. So,
To pay off the loan, because we would take out bonds.
right, in order
Yeah.
to afford this,
Yes.
it's $1,000 year one, and then it's only going to go up because, whatever, but.
And that's just to own the property. We haven't done anything with it.
Right.
That
Yes.
that would be our source. So what we do is we would take out a bond. We would go to the market, take out a bond. And they would ask us, how are you paying back the bondholders? And we would say, well, we are going to increase the millage rate accordingly. And so, it's obviously a very secure, good faith and credit of the town. We have plenty of room there in the millage, if you so choose. So yeah, we just wanted to give you just a broad idea of what that would look like.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. In the resolution, I'd have to go back to it to quote it. We did say in there, to develop it. Did we not? In the second or third paragraph? Does that leave any opening if it was a decision of the board at that time? If we did have the ability to look at this again? Is there any language in the resolution passed today that limited consideration for this?
No.
No?
So we put some numbers together again. Would they accept it? We have to do it contingent on a referendum. We can't purchase anything of that size, but if you choose to go down this path as we move forward, all we would do is say, Glenn, come up with an offer sheet, contingent offer sheet. put a price in there and see what they say. Forces the question, right? If anything, it forces the question. Say no or say yes, or say maybe. At least it shows, you know, again, that seriousness of intent and purpose. If we want to get there to that point, we do have this ability to acquire land. There's a lot of, you know, open-ended, like, can they condition a sale? I don't know. Those are things that we'd have to see if they're willing, but if you made an offer, they could always counter, you know. So
Is it feasible? I think we we're talking about to talk about making a resolution that we would be willing and wouldn't be binding to purchase the.
we could do a resolution. Do you have to do it by ordinance to do a purchase agreement?
Again, that might
Purchase-
be premature because we're looking at things like the cap, I think that's a cap and a referendum, so
You make a contingent off.
make a contingent on all those things.
Yeah. So we could say we could do a resolution saying of our expressing our intent and interest to make
Well,
a,
my top head concern is I don't want to have anybody think that we're interfering with the contract between Ms. Milani and the county. Because she has right of first refusal. If we jump in and say we're willing to buy it, or we,
maybe she doesn't want to buy it. Who knows? I don't know.
but
Hmm.
she has that right.
Yeah.
So I would think a little bit before we jumped ahead and said we're gonna buy it. Or consider buying it or offer to buy it. If I know we're in conversation with Ms. Milani, I would, want to make sure that, how she's gonna feel about that. She's saying you're bidding against us, bidding against Milani, and how about the county? So it's a good idea, but I'd say let's vet it a little bit before we move on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We'll keep on talking about it.
Yes, keep on
Yeah.
talking about it, yeah.
Public comment? Yes, on this subject.
Jack Halpern, 4511 South Ocean. In my previous talk, I mentioned handouts I was going to do. I didn't do that. So that is the talk I was going to read. I did do a little bit of changes, but I think some of the meat is in there. In terms of some of the points, such as the fact that this is Milani Beach Park and there is no beach. And the fact of the demography, I'm going to show you two air photos. One Hammond, which our Commissioner Woodward thinks is a great comparison for our site. And then I'll propose Beach Park. Yes. And you'll notice I marked, there are 8 condos within 500 feet of Milani Park. 10 or 11 within 1,000 and 13 within 1,500. So that'll give you an idea, and you can take a look at the density between these two locations. You also look on the Milani property. If you look closely, you can see the outline of the rock and how big it is. Remember, I mentioned it was like 58 meters wide versus the beach, which was, I think, about 125 or 130 meters versus Hammond Park, 330 meters long. So I leave that with you. Thank you. And thank you for passing the resolution.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. Item A, approve and authorize the mayor to execute the statewide mutual aid agreement between the town of Highland Beach and the state of Florida Division of Emergency Management, which enables the town of Highland Beach to receive assistance in the event of a disaster or emergency.
So again, this is standard federal language, just says if there's a disaster, we could help, that people can help us. We just deploy resources, get reimbursed, standard FEMA stuff. This is not, don't think this is mutual aid like you're thinking mutual aid. This is mutual aid for emergency disaster recovery, hurricanes, fires, earthquake, not that we have earthquakes, but those are those type of things. Storms.
This isn't new, right? Is this something we do every year or like?
Well, now that we have a fire department, it's a little more, before we relied on Delray. Delray had this agreement with the county. Now that we have our own standalone fire department, it's our participation. So if we get damaged, other people can deploy resources to us. If we have extra resources, we deploy and get reimbursed based on a standard hourly rate to help. It's just kind of allows us amongst each other as municipalities to help each other out based on whatever that disaster is.
So Delray had this on our behalf. Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
okay. I mean, we kind of have to do this, right? I mean, there's no reason not to do this, right?
I would
now.
not do this.
Any comments or anything? No, okay.
I
could
think
we-
this is a no-brainer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's straight up.
This
No
is,
brainer.
let's just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then make a motion?
Okay, yes, I move that we authorize the mayor to execute the statewide mutual aid agreement between the town of Highland Beach, the state of Florida Division of Emergency Management.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Next item, the 2023-2024 strategic
Oh.
priorities. Oh, I'm
B.
sorry, I skipped over B.
Almost, right?
I'm sorry. You've been waiting all this time patiently. I'm so sorry. Item B, consideration of a request for land filling approval for a portion of the property located at 4801 South Ocean Boulevard.
Okay, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. Just a brief background on this particular item. On January 11th of this year, the applicant, which is Boca Highlands, received an approval for an amendment to a special exception request that they got back on November 10th of 2021. They're actually changing the length of both the dock that they originally got approved and as well as the seawall and cap, the length of it. Now, as part of that amendment, they're going to fill in an area about actually it's 830 square feet. And we do have a provision in the town code in chapter 14, which has certain land filling regulations. So it says here, any person desiring to add to or extend any lands, areas, goes on and on, you have to get approval from the commission for that. So that's why this item is before you today. On page 284 of your packets, you'll see an aerial, and I just wanted to point out the fill area just so it's very clear to the commission. I'm just going to share my screen. I did share it, Linelda. Press share.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, this-
So small. Okay. So how do I just? Okay. All right. So as I mentioned on 284 of your packets, you'll see this particular aerial. It does show the project area. This is the full project area. This includes the changes for the seawall, the docks. Again, what's before you today is again, the fill area, which I put a little circle around it. Let me show you the next slide. Maybe you'll see the area a little bit better. This is an aerial, again, just from a different perspective. That little area in yellow, I've gone ahead and circled that. That's a general area where the fill is going to go. You could see that the red line right now, the seawall has a zigzag, right? So that zigzag will go, the seawall will go right across. Let me show you the next. There we go. This is the plan sheet, which is on page 335 of your packets. This is existing conditions. So again, I put a circle around the current seawall. Again, you have that zigzag. This is existing. And then when you go to the proposed, you could see that now the seawall goes straight across, and then I've circled the area where the proposed fill will be, that 830 square feet. So that's pretty much what we're talking about here. The applicant has provided a narrative of the fill operation that is provided on page 277 of your packets. The applicant has also received Florida Department of Environmental Protection as well as Army Corps approval for the entire project. That includes the fill as well. Army Corps and FDP did sign off on that. I've actually provided those file numbers in your staff report or your agenda memorandum on page 276. We have the authorized agent here for the project, Mr. Nutter. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Nutter as well.
I just want to point out that this is in Boca Highland, and it's the center board that is involved in this. I live in Boca Highland, but I live in Braemar Isle, and I am not involved with the center board, or I didn't know they were even doing this till I got these papers. So I have nothing to do with that.
Are there any concerns that we should be aware of with this project?
Again, the way the code reads with regards to seawall docks, I mean, again, that's not what you're seeing today. But as far as landfill, really the code only requires the narrative, the plans. As I said, FDP has signed off on it. We don't really have any additional regulations. So I don't really, there's really nothing else in the code to dictate any other concerns.
I don't have any concerns with the.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So I understand the zigzag.
Yeah.
Is the fill, is it going to even it out without significant, or perhaps I should ask you, what impact into the intracoastal? What intrusion, how much of an intrusion into it,
Yeah,
the fill encompass?
actually, I'll defer to Mr. Nutter. He can get into more of that detail. Yeah.
Hello, David Nutter with B&M Marine, the contractor that's gonna be doing the job. It won't intrude into the intercoastal at all because it's on the inside of the marina. And all they're doing is straightening out that one wall to allow better access, ingress and egress for the vessels. And that zigzag area, getting the small vessels, they're like going around each other all the time.
Yeah.
So this straighten the wall will allow better access. Plus, one of the guys has a big boat he wants to put there. So that's where it's big boat. As far as the backfill, typically, whenever you put a new wall in front of a wall, you're backfilling anyway, but typically you're going 12, 18 inches in front. So the backfill is minimal. We're going 18 to 29 feet in front. So that's why the backfill is so much on this case. I assume that's why we're going in front of you guys. Because typically we don't ever see you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or anything? No? Okay, could we have a motion? You don't want to do that. Okay, so does somebody else want to, rather than our typical motion maker, maybe somebody else, or I can do it. I move we accept the request for landfilling approval for 4801 South Ocean Boulevard.
I'll second that.
Do I say all in favor? You want me to say, yeah? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, 2023-2024 Strategic Priorities Plan Update and Review.
So, in your packet, you'll see our updated list. So basically you have the plan itself in its entirety, showing out how we broke it down into certain categories. And then what our status is with those projects. So you'll see some that are completed, like say the collective bargaining agreement is completed. Where others were part of the way progress, this or that. So we kicked this off last couple years in February. This kind of shows, where we're at, our vision, our mission that we've tweaked, our motto, our core values. And then it goes into, as she scrolls down here for those watching at home to kind of get an idea, it's, our values, Highland, of course, pretty cool. But again, it just kind of shows you how they were. And then after the plan in your packet is just a list of the initiatives in the order that they're ranked by the commission from last year. So I guess we'll talk about how do you want to move forward? When do we want to start adding projects, questions on status? That's kind of our next phase. We want to reorganize. Some things are going to get done. You know, like town signs will be done shortly. I saw Signorama or whatever in here getting permits. Again, as you see, the priorities are in, these categories, like organizational excellence, public safety, public works, those kind of things. And it kind of just shows you where our status is on those. Then we have kind of, you know, emerging issues at the very end, and however you guys would like to handle it, we could, if you want to do this offline on a special meeting, we can do that. If we want to look at, is there more initiatives on there? Some pretty heavy lifts. Usually we'll, if I can't remember if I've enclosed the previous years, but we've been doing it since we started, where you saw what we did in like 20, 21, 22. So we're making a lot of headway, completing a lot of projects. But we're making progress, moving towards everything. And again, this is, again, for everyone here who's watching, you know, this kind of shows where we put our effort and our focus. You know, when you start looking in that order, so basically we think it's simply like, if my day only has so many hours, it starts with making sure I'm hitting those priority 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it just trickles down. So like gas powered leaf blowing regular, haven't even thought about it. I think Ingrid would pass out if I had to write another ordinance. So, you know, some of those things we just haven't got to, and they kind of stayed towards the bottom. And some are ongoing, like digitization of records. We did a huge lift. Now we're trickling through the remaining pieces, but it becomes an ongoing task and initiative to make sure we're continually doing that.
So I have a recommendation. All the projects that are completed, can you compile that 2023 list of,
Sure.
of what's completed? Because it gets a little cluttered, you know? So right now I see it as kind of cluttered. So, if, you know, maybe the next time we talk about this, if you could move the projects that are completed to their, 2023 list.
Yep.
And then, and I guess another thought I thought we could do, maybe each of us can provide any input if we have any additional projects we'd like to add to the list. Maybe, you know, maybe we can go through today if some initial thoughts, but we can revisit it again as we discuss this again. And then also thoughts on, if there's anything that, you think should be reprioritized. So like, for example, the Milani Park, I think is, 19th on the list. And I think I would move that, you know, perhaps to number 2, you know, number 1 being fire rescue, maybe number 2 being Milani, you know, I'm just throwing that out there.
Sure. And the reason some of those we haven't done it is we've been triggered to move something up. When we
Absolutely.
received that after
Yeah.
setting that last February, we get the
Absolutely.
July letter
Yeah.
that moved something down the list all the way up to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
current list. So
Yeah.
also it goes with this, I'm going to try to find a way to fold in the CIP, which is our capital improvement plan, where you can see all those capital investments over the next 5 years, kind of goes with it because it's tied into almost like it's ongoing as a strategic priority. So it should be appendicized to this. So you could see where we're at each year with our capital improvement plan, just so you know what major projects we're tackling from year to year, just to keep it as a reference. Yeah.
And I'd say we put it on an agenda item next time and then like kind of see how the discuss, you know, we can keep it on the agenda and kind of just ongoing, you know, until it gets to a place.
Can
Go ahead.
we, in our meetings, can we offer some
Sure.
things that we think that ought to be discussed, whether they should go on?
Sure, sure. If you'd rather discuss it with Marshall first, or is that what you're saying? Just, or, yeah, yeah.
And anytime something comes up, if you're like, we should be working on this, send it to me and I can add it as a kind of almost like I was gonna say idea parking lot. Boy, that sounds like late 90s. So, you know, we can get those and kind of start forming a project too. So we have the standing list so we can start tackling it too, instead of doing it all at once. Like right now you might be cold, like can't think of a project. You go home and like, oh,
Well,
here's the 6 that I like.
Let me give you an example of the question, if I may. I think on that list, the charter, that was closed items, but there are things on the charter that should be revisited perhaps, like the signing of checks, like the
Sure.
salaries, and things of that nature.
It's a dangerous one. I always get nervous when you say charter revisions. I freak out. But yeah, no, you're right. Those are, that's why we kind of put The ones that are here, I put the three that are the progress of the current language. But there, you're right, there is one that we said that was like ongoing, like every year to revisit that. So yes, okay.
And the big one I just want to mention also to look at is completion of the transition of the financials of the fire department. There's issues that have to be.
Close that out. Yeah.
Well, there are issues that are outstanding. Yeah. That have to be addressed.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would also add, we were requested to review the process for ordinances. I think we should add that. That was a request by a resident. I think that should be added as, one.
Sure.
Another project was, to consider replacing the code enforcement board with a special magistrate. I would add that as one. And then other than the sewer lining project, I guess I don't even know what it would be. Are there any other aging infrastructure needs that we need to address?
Yeah, so that list depends on raising the current funding limitation. If that does go to the million with the CIP adjustment, the number of those projects shrinks down. Because there's a bunch that are, say, $500,000, $600,000 type projects that we can't do. That would be something that we'd have to get a referendum on. But if that charter passes, that question passes, it reduces the amount of projects that would rise to a referendum need.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, I thought that we should have we've been talking about the reconfiguration of the old firehouse.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that would go under, whether that's the public infrastructure or community
Is it-
enrichment.
Is it on the list? I can't.
I didn't see
mean,
it
we
on
just
the
have
list,
fire,
and it
so-
wasn't.
Yeah, I probably
I
tucked
think
it
it
in
was-
somewhere.
we
Yeah.
weren't ready in 2023.
I think it was part of the fire.
Yeah, I think it's
Was
on the
it?
fire as a sub item. It probably needs
Yeah.
to come forward as
Yeah,
a separate
it could be its
standalone.
own
It is,
thing.
yeah.
We did some structure. We took the structural engineer in there last week, so we could see what we can or can't do based on the current configuration of that building, the pile location, strength of the beams in there. So we have a better idea moving forward. So yeah, that's right. It's a separate project.
That's all I had here.
Yeah.
So,
Nothing else.
Evelyn, do you have any-
No, I would have to think about it a little bit, but I do know that we have some aging infrastructure things in our water plant, and there were just things that are gonna happen. We have to really
Shouldn't
think
talk about
about.
Pat like that. Too bad he's not here.
Not, Pat, we love Pat. But there are things that we need to keep in the back of our minds that are going to need to be replaced because they're not new. And those will be expensive projects.
Right.
So even if the spending limit is increased, I don't believe that that's going to be able to cover a lot of those items.
So if you could take that input and then maybe, have
Separate
it on.
Things up, yep.
Yeah, and,
Keep it as a standing item for a little bit. So each meeting it's there to kind of take a little bit deeper dive.
Sure.
Okay.
I think we could handle it that way. We'll take little bites out of it and, I think we'll get to a good place.
That'll lead us into budget season. By the time we wrap
Yeah,
that up, we'll
there-
hit budgets. Yeah.
Perfect.
You know,
Perfect. Sir, if this is any repeat of what you had before, we are going to stop your, public.
I'd
comment.
like to offer an addition to the strategic priorities plan update.
Okay, go ahead.
So in the HOA talk link that I had sent you in the email back on January 22nd, there's a list of entities that were involved in the settlement of the Surfside disaster. It was $1 billion plus. And so you guys have a review process for your 40-year review like the state has. Let me suggest that you please go through the contractors that were involved in the settlement, because I think they contribute substantially to that disaster. one of which is Becker and Polyakov. Some others are John Moriarty and Associates of Florida. 157 million, by the way, on that one. I don't know exactly what they do, but they may be an engineering firm. Morabito Consultants, Concrete Protection and Restoration, Western Waterproofing Company of America, Florida Civil, Geosonics, Stantec Architecture, D. Simone Consulting Engineers, NVS, NV5. All these companies contributed substantially to the settlement of Surfside disaster. And you have a lot of work going on here with concrete restoration at Coronado, other associations, new roofs at Coronado, new hallways at Coronado, other associations.
So we're not here to talk about a specific property.
I'm just
so-
saying this, it's a suggestion for an addition to your strategic plan.
Okay,
because-
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, Town Commission comments. Commissioner Goldberg.
Well, this was a very full week, I must say, or last week, last 7 days. And I'm encouraged with the meeting that we had, with the reception that we had for relative to the Milani Park. And the full support of the commission by way of the resolution and just continuing. I'd like to say that I'd like to see, and I'll speak more to our town manager about this, extending and increasing our concerns, particularly with the environmental community out there, beyond this immediate community and the county, to the state legislature as a whole, and even beyond, whether through media or otherwise, and to really draw that attention to what's going on here and what is being attempted by a government entity, the needs of communities like ours. And we could go into that in greater detail. But I think that where we are and where we're going is admirable, and we should keep plugging along with it. And I really look forward to love the progress that we've made in 1 year. I think it's incredible to have the firehouse done in such a beautiful manner without interruption. And I look forward to our reconfiguration of the old firehouse and to have the community a part. I thought it was just wonderful to see the response that we had to this problem that we're facing. And I think that we should encourage more community participation in every way, everything that we're doing. So it was a good meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to repeat that. Just thank you for everybody coming out, all the residents. I was proud to say I live in Highland Beach with all the people out here. And talk about environmental, Judy just did. Thank you for the turtle people come out, Joanne and her people. They spoke very well, and they actually said that how many nests they had on the beach. And if they marked them off and you couldn't be on the beach, there'd be no beach. So it's just thanks again. And the last thing I like to say, being an ex-police officer, my son-in-law, ex-police officer, and my son, a police officer, is very proud to, with our police department and Paul on the police department. I met him several times, and we always talk about cars and Mercedes, working on Mercedes. And I'm very proud, and because of our great police department, we got, I guess, voted last year the safest place in Florida, which means a lot. So thanks again to our police officers out there working around the clock. Thank you.
Yeah, I just also agree. I want to thank everyone who came out the other night and for the cordial and professional way they handled themselves, that it was a pleasure to see that no one needed police protection, that no one was attacking anybody, no one was threatening anybody. And that is in general how this town behaves. People come out, they express themselves, but they really don't take personal pot shots at people. They just state their facts, sometimes a little more forcefully than others. But it was a very good meeting, and I do believe that the staff at county, I watched them, and they were taking notes constantly throughout everything that people were saying. There were 4 people behind here who were taking notes on everything. So I think that those are the people you have to really deal with, are the county administrators. It was a good meeting. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
I concur. I think it was an excellent meeting. It's very impressive when you go through the strategic accomplishments, how much the whole town has done. It's terrific. Congratulations on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for everyone, for the community engagement, for the county meeting. It was really great to be part of such a unified, voice, expressing our opinion, on the park. I also want to congratulate Officer Paul, Schursty. The 5 of us, my family, we talk to Paul on a regular basis, and he is terrific and very much deserving of the award. And it was great to see his family here. And yes, I agree that I'm looking forward to the completed 2023 list of the strategic priorities. I think it is extremely impressive, all the items that we have moved to the completed list. And I look forward to continuing our progress for 2024. So moving on, the town attorney's report.
No report, other than good meeting.
Town manager.
Nothing to add. You guys hit it all. We talked about all the big topics again. Like I said, we'll try to get some standing meetings. Oddly enough, things will happen since meetings. I met the mayor this morning, something happened after that. And then Commissioner Peters comes in, then I got a call while we're meeting, there's probably something else that happened. So I will try to keep everybody as quickly as I can current. But again, we just gotta follow that process until a point where you don't want to follow it. And you'll know that as I provide that information. And but there's a lot of work on the county side to make some changes too. They can't just unilaterally make a split decision. It's just like us, but on a bigger scale, our whole commission has to make some of these decisions. Stay tuned.
Moving on to announcements, board vacancies. We do have 1 vacancy for the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. Upcoming meetings and events, February 7th at 11 a.m. We have the Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board meeting, February 8th at 9:30 in the morning, the Planning Board regular meeting, February 13th at 1 in the afternoon, Code Enforcement Board regular meeting, February 19th, Town Hall is closed in observance of President's Day, and board action reports, we have none. And with that, it's 3:58. We can adjourn.